Hey, it's Mr. Woodward, Screencast here about the Preliminary Bibliography, which is also sort of about APA format, and how to put this bibliography in APA format. So first of all, a bibliography. What is a bibliography? It's one of those fancy words you hear all the time. Any list of sources is a bibliography. The thing is, there are different kinds of bibliographies that serve different purposes. You know that if you do a research paper, at the end of the paper you list your sources on a references list or references page. That's a type of bibliography. The purpose is to tell people what sources you used and give them enough information about it that they could find those sources themselves if they were doing research on the same topic, for example. So that's one kind of bibliography. There are bibliographies, there are entire books, you know, I'm sure there's a gigantic book of a bibliography of sources about William Shakespeare, where the whole purpose of the book is to help people find sources about William Shakespeare. So we're doing a type of bibliography, a list of sources. The preliminary bibliography is just a list showing what you have found so far, essentially. Showing me what you have found so far for your position statement as you do research. Showing me a list of at least 3 periodical articles that you think you're going to use, that you think will be useful. And then for next week we'll talk about a slightly different kind of bibliography, the annotated bibliography. But this gets us started. And so you can see here I've got an example that I put together from some student papers that were handed in the past. And so here's an example of all you have to do for a preliminary bibliography. It's just a page that lists at least 3 sources, periodical articles, in APA format. And so the trickiest part is getting listing those sources in APA format and doing that correctly. I have to assume that you have some experience with and familiarity with documenting sources, most likely APA format or some other format. But I'll give you a quick rundown on how to figure out how to list your particular sources in APA format to do that correctly. I recommend as a resource the OWL website. Purdue University has an online writing lab. If you Google Purdue OWL, you will get what you need. So rather than try to give you a web address, I just recommend that. You can see Purdue OWL, Purdue Online Writing Lab. And Google will give you insight into the sections that website has, or you can just go to the website and find the APA guide. And it's a great resource that has a lot of information about APA format. And so you can see it's got a general overview of APA format and of the different sections of a research paper done in APA format. For the purposes of our preliminary bibliography, we're most interested in what they tell us about the reference list. We're doing a type of reference list. And so I recommend, you know, depending on your level of familiarity with APA format, you might want to start with the basic rules and read through this. It gives a good overview of how a reference list works. We're listing periodical articles, and so you might want to take a look at this section. And again, I'm not going to go through it point by point. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. It gives you explanations and it gives you examples. Of course, you're most likely finding your periodical articles online, either through Google Scholar or an online database like an EBSCO database or something else. And so you should also look at electronic sources. In particular, article from an online periodical might apply if you find an article through Google Scholar in particular. Or let's see, article from a database. like an EBSCO database, also is likely to apply to some of your sources for a lot of you, and so I recommend looking at that. Also, I want to point out that, as you might already know, EBSCO, and I should have planned ahead a little better here, but anyway, EBSCO will generate the citation for you, and you can tell it what format to put the citation in. And so quickly I'll show you how that works in case you're not sure. The only thing I have to caution you about is it actually doesn't quite put it in APA format. So you have to actually make some corrections. So you might need to look at the OWL website to figure out what the corrections are. To give you a hint, it has to do with capitalization. So, gosh, let's see. I'm looking for articles about psychology. Maybe that's pronounced psychology. And so I'm just trying to pull up a random article and show you how this works. And so if I'm looking at the full record for this article, the full record shows us all the information and gives us the abstract, then I can, once I'm at this point, I can get a citation, and it's right here on the right side. It says cite, and it gives me a choice of formats, and there it is, all ready to go almost. And so of course I could take the shortcut of copying that text and pasting it onto my list, but then I've got to make sure it gets the right spacing and indenting, and I need to correct the capitalization to make it look like this. Hanging indents, meaning second and third and subsequent lines are indented if they go that long. First line of each entry is to the margin. Okay, I'm going to stop there so this doesn't get too long, but you can certainly email me with questions. But for Friday, you want to make a document like this, Preliminary Bibliography in APA format. And I'm hoping that the resources I've pointed out to you will be useful. So I'll sign off.